Hello everyone, my name is Matt, and today we're taking a look at this phone right here. This is the Poco X4 Pro, and it's a really impressive device in terms of money. You've probably seen it around YouTube and around the internet in general, and that is because it just is unbeatable in terms of what it offers for the price that you pay. So I would like to thank Heka for sending this device out to me. Heka are an online store. You can use their online store using the link down below, and you can enter my promo code, and you will get a discount whenever you purchase anything on the website. But this is really outstanding, this phone. Like, for real, budget phones are getting a lot better, and the gap between flagships and budget devices is getting so small. For real, 2022 is the year where the gap is almost closed. So in terms of the design, it's actually quite nice. You've got Corning Gorilla Glass 5 on the front. You have an aluminum border going around the side, which is pretty sharp. It's very flat, kind of reminds me of the iPhone 12, and it's matte, so you're not going to get any fingerprints on there. But then on the back is where the fingerprint madness kind of happens. This thing has a plastic back and then a glass section in the top where the camera is housed, but it's so fingerprinty. It's ridiculous. So many fingerprints get picked up on this back cover that you pretty much always need to walk around with a microfiber cloth. For real though, look how reflective this thing is. Oh, and something really nice of them to do is include this silicone case, so if you're a little bit worried about where to buy a case for this, then problem solved. You get one in the box. But yeah, I would say it's a good design. You do have some speakers at the top and the bottom there, so you've got stereo speakers, and you actually do have the headphone jack up there as well, which is pretty old school, but nice of them to include. And something I've never seen for a while is they have an IR blaster up there. Man, back in the day, I used to troll people so bad with this thing. That's probably why they removed them on all the devices, but not the Poco phone. So taking a closer look at this camera cutout, you can see the word Poco is written in really bold writing there. So they're really trying to show off that this is a Poco phone. And to the side here, we have a 108 megapixel camera. So that's a very big number. However, it does pixel bin down to 12 megapixels. But if you want to keep the full 108, then it does give you the option to do that. Underneath that, we have an 8 megapixel ultra wide, which is really nice to see. And then there's a 2 megapixel macro camera. So you can get in very close to things and focus on them and get a really detailed up close image, but it doesn't really look that great, honestly, in my opinion, but it's kind of nice of them to include. And then on the front here, you have a 16 megapixel selfie camera, which I would honestly say is definitely not too bad. I used it a couple of times. I'll display some pictures on screen, and you know what? It does the job. It's definitely acceptable. I would say all around the cameras are going to get the job done. There's nothing bad about them, but there's nothing exceedingly great about them either. They're definitely not as good as something like the top of the range iPhones or Pixels or even Samsung devices. They're definitely not of that class. But you know what? Cameras can be subjective. It does have obviously a very high resolution. It's going to process it a certain way and have certain colors, and the dynamic range is nothing special. It's a little bit over sharpened at times, but it does produce a fairly usable result like I mentioned. Inside the camera app, you actually have a couple of pro modes. You have a portrait mode, a long exposure mode, and the long exposure mode is pretty cool because it allows you to capture things like light trails of cars or even astrophotography shots of the stars. So that's a really nice addition to the camera app. I really like those features. So now taking a look at the display, this thing is so impressive. It has a 6.67 inch 1080p 120Hz AMOLED display, and the sampling rate of this thing is 360 Hz. So you're going to get a very touch responsive experience when using this device. Now at the top in the middle here, you do actually have a hole punch. However, it's only 4mm diameter, so it's a very small hole punch, if not the smallest that I've ever seen. And when you're watching content or playing games, it really does blend out of your field of view. You're never really going to notice it there, which is always a good thing. In terms of the viewing angles, I can say there really isn't any color shift. It's fairly reflective, this screen, so you are getting a lot of glare. However, even when you're outdoors, you're going to be able to see this display because it's got a peak brightness of 1300 nits, which is so impressive for a phone of this price point. With this display and this level of brightness, this is definitely the main part of this device that brings it up to the flagships. Now, considering this thing has 120 Hz, you may be thinking the battery is going to drain, but I've actually been getting 8 hours of screen on time with this, and it's definitely lasting me about a day and a half of use, which is really good. This thing has a 5000 milliamp hour battery. Despite being fairly thin, that's actually pretty impressive for a phone of this size. Now, it is a very big phone in terms of like the height, the width, But yeah, it's fairly thin, I would say. So considering they fit a 5,000 milliamp hour battery in there, I am really, really impressed. But something more crazy than that is the fact that this thing supports 67 watt fast charging. So you actually get the fast charger in the box, but as soon as you plug it into your device, you're gonna get 0 to 60% in 15 minutes and a full charge in pretty much 30 minutes, which is just crazy. Now, I guess a little sacrifice they did make is there's no wireless charging in this device. However, I would much rather have super fast cable charging because you only need to plug it in for 15 minutes. So it doesn't really matter if you don't have that wireless charging feature. So something even faster than the charging speed is the fingerprint scanner. This thing is blazingly quick. You have a fingerprint scanner built into the lock button on the side here, so that's why the lock button is pretty long, but honestly, this thing is super fast. Whenever I touch this fingerprint scanner, it instantly unlocks to the point where it's kind of difficult to actually just check my lock screen. Luckily, however, it does have double tap to wake. I really like this feature because it just allows me to check my notifications without actually unlocking right to the home screen like that, but damn, it's fast. In terms of the performance on this phone, it is very fast to use. It's very fluid. Obviously the 120 Hz makes it feel fluid, but then apps actually launch really quick, and whenever you're switching or even using big applications like games, you're gonna have absolutely no problem with this device. It's using a Snapdragon 695 processor and 6 GB of RAM. Now there's also an 8 GB version if you get the 256 storage option, but this is the 128, so I only have 6 GB of RAM, but it still does perform great. I actually maxed out the settings in Call of Duty Mobile, and I was able to play it smoothly with no lag whatsoever. So yeah, it's an absolute breeze to use in terms of the scrolling experience. Opening applications is very fast, and switching between even large applications is completely no problem for this phone. The only slight thing that draws it back from being in that same classification as the flagship phones is the fact that this thing is still running Android 11. So I don't really have many hopes for the future software updates on this device. It might get support for Android 13, but so far it's still running Android 11, and we're yet to see Android 12 updates come to this device, which will hopefully be coming soon. But I really don't have good expectations for the future proofing of this device. Normally Android devices only last a couple of years anyway, so it does hold up to standard, but it doesn't exceed those standards. Something else which was super annoying and frustrating is the fact that this thing came with so many applications installed. It came with a total of 61 apps, just loads of bloatware and ads and things I didn't want on my phone. And that's just really annoying because I had to go through and manually uninstall them all. There was even like 6 games installed. Like, they're probably being sponsored by those application companies and they've been paid to put it on the device, and that may be how we're getting it so cheap. So, you know what, so be it. It is a bit of a sacrifice, but you can always uninstall them. But yeah, in terms of the launcher that comes on this device, the Poco launcher, I would say it's fine. It's pretty simple. Honestly, there is quite a lot of customization you can do. I just don't really like the workings of it, and so I switched it out for Lawn Chair 2. Just gives a much simpler experience and it makes it feel more stock, and you don't really get that straight out of the box. It definitely feels very Xiaomi, and so you're gonna have to tweak the phone just that little bit to get it more stock-like. However, it does come with Gboard, which is pretty nice, so I didn't have to download that. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. It's an incredible device. I'm just so overwhelmed by it and blown away that I don't even know how to put it into words. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know if you think this is a good device or not, whether you guys would actually pick one up. But I'll see you later. So, peace.